All righty, good morning. We'll call the meeting to order of Delaware County Council this January 28th, 2025. Will you please stand to say the pledge? Brad Polk, would you lead us, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Brad. Roll call. Mr. Brookout. Present. Lincoln. Here. Mr. Mogul. Here. Mr. Hughes. Here. Mr. Whitehead. Present. Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Here.
Mr. Freeman. Here. Thank you. Questions from the public not in attendance may be directed to County Council dist@co.delaware.in.us. The agenda posted properly. Thank you. Motion for approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
By Dan, second by Jessica. Roll call. Lincoln. Yes. Hughes. Yes. Vogel. Yes. Brookout. Yes. Whitehead. Yes. Cantz. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from December 17th? So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Jessica. Questions or comments? Roll call. Flanagan. Yes. Mr. Hughes. Yes. Vogel. Yes. Mr. Brookout. Abstain. Go ahead. Yes. Cantz. Piper.
Yes.
Motion to approve the January 2nd council special meeting minutes. So moved.
Second.
Brad, I heard you first.
Okay.
Jessica, I heard the second. Any comments or questions? Roll call. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Vogel.
Yes.
Mr. Brookout.
Yes.
Whitehead. Yes. Cantz. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on to the transfer and appropriations. Start off with other. Elizabeth.
9214, Ball Brothers Grant, 393, Training, 11,845.24 cents. 394, Renovations, negative $1,778.58 cents. 443, Software and Equipment, negative $10,066.66 for a total trade.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Questions?
This was just to clean up the grant.
Yes, it's moving funds where they're needed. Would state your name, please. Chuck Timmers, HBCU Director. Very much. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Brookout.
Yes.
Whitehead.
Yes.
Cantz. Piper.
Yes.
$11.5, Cumulative Bridge, 141, 101, Labor, negative $45,000, $45,000. 142, 101, Truck Driver, negative $45,000.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Jessica.
New employee or change in employee.
So the 141 was a laborer that retired, Terry Dye County Highway. And so with that, we want to open that up to a truck driver spot because all of our employees are required to have a CDL. With that, we have a mechanic that's been with us for 26 years. And the doctors told him he needs to get off the concrete working all day. So he has requested to go back to driving truck. So the mechanic will move into the truck driver spot once this is approved.
The labor, you're not going to replace that.
That is correct. The laborer will be gone.
Any other questions? Roll call, please. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Vogel.
Yes.
Mr. Brookout.
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead. Yes. Ms. Piper?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, moving on to appropriations. Clerk?
125 clerk, 129, 101 deputy registration clerk, $22 for total. Motion to approve?
Second?
Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Questions for the clerk? Everybody understand this one?
Be on Matt's notes that if the salary for some reason was just reduced by 22 and we're correcting.
Yes, that's it was in it. You know, we just didn't have the money in the fund to pay out the end of the year, just an adjustment.
And if you would tell us who you are, please.
Yeah, Rick Spangler, Delaware County Clerk.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Wyatt. Yes. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
126 auditor, 198, 101 part-time, 15,000. 122, 101 grant writer and administrator, 80,000 for a total of 90.
Move to approve?
Second?
Motion by Jessica, second by Dan.
I'd like to amend the motion to separate these two items, taking up the part-time 15,000 first. That's my motion to amend.
All right, motion by Bill, second by Dan. Have any questions or comments on separating? All right, roll call on the amendment. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Bookout.
Yes.
Wyatt. Yes. Piper.
Yes.
Motion to approve said part-time is
It's already been amended.
Oh.
They're now separate.
now it's separated, and we have to agree to it, correct?
Yeah, now you would make a motion to adopt them in the.
I'll make that motion.
You made the
Second.
motion for the 15,000 overtime only.
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Dan, second by Jessica. Now do we have a question?
Give us background on this.
Tanya Dunsmore, Chief Deputy Auditor. This 15,000 is more than we had last year. We had a total of 25 altogether last year, and during budget, we had part-time overtime line together, and like the rest of the offices, we've separated those out. We currently just have 5 in the part-time line, and our part-time was cut at budget, and I know Ed asked a few times throughout the budget for it to be addressed, and it didn't get addressed, and then it got adopted without it, and our part-time money never got put back. So we are asking for it now.
And do you have a need at this point because of 2 employees that will be going on family leave?
That's correct. I have 2 pregnant employees, one due in March and one due in May. So this part-time employee will help out with either or both of those areas.
Does that seem like that's the right amount to cover what's anticipated?
We basically were just going off what we had last year, for the mere purpose of not trying to increase it on you guys. So with this 15 plus what we have is what we had last year. So, I would think that would cover us through the time. It kind of depends on how many hours worked and such. But we are looking at the hourly rate of 18 an hour because it is a payroll deputy that will be on maternity leave for one, and a finance deputy that will be on leave as well. So, with that, we feel like it would get us through at least that temporary time.
The other question I have, I brought this up at finance. Our fund balances, it's showing a general fund balance of $4 million. That's not correct.
The reason being is, we had to do what's called a soft roll. And with that, it means like the official hard roll has not been done in the system due to the fact that council didn't have a special meeting for the encumbrances. Instead, you guys wanted to wait until today. So we are at the end of January, before we can even come up with true accurate roll. Because we have to wait on those encumbrances to be approved so that they can be put in the system and then the final roll can be completed.
We're anticipating that our general fund balance will be considerably more than $4 million.
Elizabeth, do you have the answer on that as to where it will be?
I don't have the exact amount, but it's the cash balance that has to go over, so that is it.
I think our budget was premised on having about $7 million as of,
That was at budget time, yes. I remember.
and I guess my question is, we're not gonna be wildly far off from that.
Well, I don't think that, I mean, we haven't had any appropriations, so I don't know how we would be real off from that, to be honest with you. We're within the first month, so without being able to see an exact, I mean, I don't foresee $3 million gone.
That's comfort.
Any more questions regarding the part-time?
I would just ask, I guess, come budget time, that you remind us once again of this part-time situation, so that hopefully, look at figure in January, next we can remember,
Ed did bring it
reinforce
up.
our memories.
Ed brought it up, I know of 2 times within budget and it wasn't addressed, so. But I will, yeah.
No further questions, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Camp. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Piper.
All righty, do I hear a motion for the 80,000 grant writer and administrator?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jessica, second by Bill. Would you like to explain this, Tanya, before we ask questions?
I can explain part of it and then I'll probably let Ed take over because he has it all in his head better than I do. But as far as the salary is 40, and then there's another 25 to 30, I believe you told me, is that correct? 25 to 30 for a system that would be used in order to track all of the, find the grants, track the grants, apply for the grants. Like I said, he's gonna be able to explain this better, but I'll do the numbers. 40's for salary, 25 to 30 for the system, and then the rest of it would go towards the benefits for that employee. And details on that system, I'll let you explain, Ed.
So you have several documents that we've applied you, starting off with the email, but originally at Finance Week requested 80,000 for a grant writer and administrator, and there was concerns about paying that much for one employee. There were multiple suggestions on different ways of approaching this, so one of the suggestions was to have a person be an administrator, and then coming up with more of a consultant or something to that effect. And that's what this firm does. It consults and supplies information concerning grants. So it's a web-based product that all of the departments would have access to do grant research. It also would actually integrate with our financial system, so we'll pull the financial data so they can monitor and make sure they're compliant with their grants. And we can actually schedule thresholds, so if there's non-compliant issues arising, it will give us those indicators. So each department can manage their own grant, on top of the fact that we can monitor and make sure we're compliant as a county. So ours also have the same access only for all of various grants. And if you notice, I supply you the ordinance The ordinance act outlines those particular issues that we're responsible for now concerning compliance. So the software would actually allow us to do that, to make sure we're compliant and following the ordinance. That's the reason we decided to go with the approach of 40,000 for an administrator versus paying 80,000 per person to try to tackle, essentially both those issues concerning grant writing and trying to administer and maintain existing grants we currently have.
I thought we talked about this budget. Yes, my thought was we were going to postpone the word. No, we have to have discussion. That will, if was in favor, writers, that would look at 40.
Well, that is partially true. You weren't in favor because you obviously had put in the budget. That's the reason I'm here today. But one of the things that's happened since then is the commissioners actually approved a contract that would fund $40,000 a year for the next 2 years for someone to support grants. So this 80,000 total that's being requested, half that would come from the ARP money, which is already approved by the commissioners. So really the ask is $40,000 a year, not 80.
Okay, so how long will the ARP money last?
That's for the next 2 years, 25 and 26.
And you indicated that with the system, that the individual office people could, did you say write their own grants?
Well, what this product does, it actually has links internally to grants that are throughout all the federal grants, state grants, et cetera. So it allows the departments to go search and find the grants pertinent to their particular office. And then they can apply for those grants through the system. The departments. So each department could actually go out and search for grants that would apply to their department.
Specifically, who in those departments is going to do this?
Well, we have a few of them here. I mean, all the departments that have grants currently. I mean, they can, but any department, it could be highway, any department we have could go out and search and find grants for revenue to support whatever the community needs or they need.
So there was additional discussion in regards to this grant writer, and I thought there was also discussion in regards to we weren't real sure we could find somebody for 80,000 a year. How do you propose to find somebody for 40?
Well, this person not going to just be a grant writer, it's actually going to be more of an administrator, and we're using the software as the tool for the grant access, et cetera.
Who currently uses this software system?
There's multiple counties throughout the state of Indiana that currently use it. And there's other states, counties and cities and towns that use it also, but in Indiana, there's counties that currently use it.
Okay, so to back up once again, you indicated, I think, that the commissioners have passed a resolution, if that's the right word, for that.
They sign a contract
For
a company to reimburse the general fund the time and cost that our office has incurred because we're doing all the work on grants. Just because the work doesn't, we have to still do the work. So we have to, all this ARP money, that the $22 million has to be maintained, and we have to do all the paperwork on that grant. So what this is reimbursement for all the time our office has spent and will be spending on that particular grant and other grants.
Let me jump in here real quick to give a couple comments. From my past experience, I'm aware of the intricacies of grants, both state, federal, and local. Writing the grant is this much of the process. Doing the administration is this much of the process. I talked with Ed yesterday quickly about the term of this. Grant administrator, and Ed, you correct me if you perceive this as wrong, but I think the grant administration is probably 95% of the work that your office is undertaking right now.
Yes.
The actual grant writing is a very small percentage of this.
Right.
I know the detailed federal statutes that what they require regarding ARP or a federal grant that the sheriff's department or any other agencies may receive. I know the commissioners have put that burden onto the auditor's office to administer those, so you're trying to account for the person who would actually be doing that work.
Correct.
Would, since we've kind of,
Can I speak to grants on our end, the ones that actually do the grants? The administration,
hold on, Emily. Bill, did you want to go ahead and ask your question?
well, because the administration that we have to do on our end is, I don't even know how to say it nicely, ridiculous. I have a $60,000 grant right now that we are giving up because we cannot maintain it. The auditor's office has nothing to do with that. What we foresaw as a grant writer is to somebody help us maintain the grant, not, I'm sure the auditor has some maintaining of the grant as well. But there is a $60,000 grant that they want so much information and so much data and so much maintaining of the grant that we can't keep up. So we're giving up $60,000 that goes into the community, not just us, but into the community, that we're having to give up because we can't maintain it. So our whole kind of what we foresaw as a grant writer was somebody to help maintain the grant, to help with getting that data. Not only just writing a grant like you said is easy. It's maintaining it. It's having the manpower, the bandwidth to maintain these grants. And when you say go get grants, and we're like, great, we'll go get a grant, but we can't maintain it because we don't have the manpower to do that. So I think there's two sides to this. There's the auditor side and what they have to track for auditing purposes, and then there's our side. I know DCCC and probation and courts. Our side is tremendous amount of work just to track a grant to keep it. And I'm sure high tech crime unit, I'm sure they all have major workload. CASA, that's all she does is track grants, data, just to maintain her program. So for us, we're out here going, we would like to see a grant writer that can actually help us on our side help with getting all the information and maintain that information, not just the auditor. And I get both sides.
Have you looked at Emily, have you looked at the job description?
No, I haven't seen that.
Take a look at it, and we would like your feedback and the feedback of other department heads. Is this the type of person you're looking for? And I had a question. Since only part of this money is going for an employee, the other part to fund the contract, should those line items be split up, or is it still going to be a single line item?
They would be split up. One would be under contractual services, which would be the 25 to 30,000, and then the balance would stay under.
And we're going to call it now grant and compliance deputy.
Correct. That's the job description that was created back during budgetary time period. The same company that created that was the ones.
And since then, the commissioners have adopted ordinance 2024-012, which further defines your duties as far as grant administration.
Correct.
So is it possible that some of that information from that ordinance would also be incorporated into
That's partly how we created that, because that ordinance for the grant administration actually started back in 18, and we updated it in 24, and that's partly how we come up with the job description.
Okay, so the job description in the ordinance should be compatible at this point.
Right.
I'd be interested, other department heads who have perspective on this would certainly be helpful to me.
I think we need to table this for a month, maybe, and get some more input from people. I think there's nobody up here that disagrees that there is a need for something to fill some of these roles, but I think we need to get more information.
I think what Bill was asking, if anyone was here who had comments on grants. You want to take the podium and, yeah, please.
Jane Miranda, Community Corrections. For the grants that Community Corrections is responsible for, we have about 7 or 8 that we do every year. We are responsible for submitting them. We are responsible for the financial aspects of it, the reporting, everything. So I'm not for sure how this particular position would impact community corrections. It's a very extensive process, and the state has actually moving to a new system this year for any entity that I had training on last week to submit grants. So I'm not comfortable with someone who would not know anything about community corrections or what we do and the processes that we have to do for the DOC. I don't know how this would impact community corrections because I am still responsible for reporting all of that.
The audits that happen on those grants, do they run solely through DCCC or do they also go through the auditor's office?
So we are responsible for submitting all the information. What we have to submit from the auditor is reports that match up with what we're submitting. So then when those don't match up, then that's when they reach out to the auditor and we figure out why things are not matching up. But it's our reports, it's our collections, we have to submit monthly financial reports that is uploaded in a system for the DOC. We have to submit quarterly reports for some grants, and that's solely out of my office.
I would like to add to that, for the auditor's side of it, we do reporting as well, but in a different manner. Like, she takes care of the details for her department and is in compliance for her department. However, we do all reporting for all the county to the state.
When you work with the auditor's office, up to now, has there been one person you contact or how does that work?
In the past, there were particularly one or two individuals. This time it's been mostly Keita and Tanya that we work with. Typically we don't have problems unless an auditor's report does not match our reports.
It was suggested at Finance Committee that some of these grants have a component for administration. Do any of yours have that as a part of the grant?
What are you meaning by administration?
Some portion of the grant can be used by the county to help administer the grant, not direct programming.
No, our grants do not have a position for that.
And will the new program help with her, compliance and reporting?
Yes. Essentially, this system's gonna tie to our financial system, so if everything is put in the financial system, it's gonna pull over to this system here. And you'll be able to set up, thresholds, so essentially it'll indicate whether you're within compliance financially, et cetera. Also, if there's demographic information, there's all kinds of data, pieces of data that can be used depending on what type of grant you have. So that's the point of this software is to help people be proactive and keep in compliance before the end of the year when it's too late.
So to pick on Emily, since she was up there, there's a chance that the program could have helped her keep her grant.
Yeah, because one of the things this program does, because it pulls the financial information and other information, it actually generates certain reports, like there's certain federal reports, things like that. And all you do is click on it, and it pulls up the report, and you submit it. So there's none of this printing out reports and filling in or anything like that. It automatically generates a lot of these reports, and we can actually have custom reports built if we feel the need or see the need for it.
So it would help with the financial end of it.
But it's not the financial end that we deal with.
That's what I was about
It's data, it's hard data, it's kids being detained, it's demographics of those children being detained, which she does manually. We've spent weeks getting the data, and it's something she has to do on a daily basis, a monthly basis, and a quarterly basis, and it's stuff that we can't just export in, right? You have to input it, it's manpower. So it's not financial side, it's data side that is inputted by a person. So that is the side that we talk about that has nothing to do with the auditor, that we can't maintain because it takes so much manpower. This is Holly. She is my supervising probation officer at juvenile probation, and she is the one that puts in all the data for the JDAI grant. That's what we're talking about.
And the DOC grant.
And the DOC grant that we do. And the $60,000 grant that we're talking about, there's 4 of us working on it, and we cannot maintain it. because they ask for everything. And one of the things they ask for is outcome measures. So we have money given to us and we have to say, what are we gonna get with this money and how are we going to measure that outcome? So we give money to MPD for their different activities in the community, right? We have to measure the outcome. How is it helping the community? We cannot come up with an outcome measure still that is pleasing to the DOC. So this is the kind of stuff that we are working with, that we are banging our heads against the wall. And it's like, it's not even worth it to us because we don't have the manpower or the time. This is one part of our job that 4 of us are doing that we can't get done. Which $60,000 is a lot of money that we're giving up. But I feel like I go locally and not have this much work. But it's a federal grant, you know? So that is the time consuming that we're talking about, is the data side. Financial, I can pull from VIP, that's not a problem. It's already there.
I don't understand how one individual, unless they were really in your office and dedicated almost full time,
That's what we need.
but this person isn't gonna do that.
That's what I'm saying. We almost would need, and that's what they really want, is a full-time person on grant.
Understand that.
Can't do it.
I spent the whole, pretty much the last 3 weeks working on grant stuff. I had 7 reports that were due by the 10th, the 15th, and the 17th of this month.
One grant.
And still have to input every kid we put in detention, every kid that goes on house arrest, every kid that we run a detention screening tool on. I have to do outcomes. I have to measure how many kids on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis. I have 3 reports that are due on a monthly basis. I have 2 reports that are due on a quarterly basis, plus all the data numbers.
That is what they want. They want a person to be doing it full-time, and we don't have a position for that. So that's why we're at where we're at with this.
Eat up the whole,
Well, it would. So I'm just saying, like, there are some grants that are like this. I'm sure Jane can attest to her grants taking up that much time. But when you get into these big grants, that's what they want. They want a full-time person maintaining the grants
in your department alone.
in your department alone, yes.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily. And Holly.
Did anybody else want to speak?
Gavin. You were up there in front of me.
Are you done, Emily? Do you need to come? Okay. Gavin Green, Delaware County Coroner. I think that this, in general, would be a fantastic position to fill. Jim, I think you have a great point that to have a full-time person for this, it's kind of a big bite for the council to be like, hey, this one person, but then to be spread thin amongst everyone. But I can tell you that the grants that we use from the state of Indiana, we have to report back to the state the data, the information that Emily was talking about. How many deaths we have to upload into a system, all the autopsies, all that information. And then at the end of the year, back in the day, it'd be Donna, it would be like the last week of the year and say, hey, I need you to get me a list of all of the grants that you have gotten this year. Tell us how much you've gotten, what was the dollar amount, and how you used them. Well, at the end of the year, that's just one more thing at the end of the year. And if a grant writer, grant administrator, whatever you want to call them, would be helping, that's just one less thing that would be on everyone else's in the departments. That would be one less thing they would have to do. So even if it's just one little piece that would help us, that would be tremendous. Because one of the things that Rhiannon and I in the office, we have to deal with is nothing is free. As everyone knows, if you can get $1,000 piece of equipment, great. It's probably going to cost you about $2,000 in tracking, upkeep, $75 for a new battery for that piece of equipment we just had to replace. So stuff like that. But it's just the asset tracking and the paperwork from our department. Now, other departments might be a little bit different. They're going to have different needs. But overall, if someone were to come to us and say, hey, Gavin, hey, Rhiannon, hey, coroner's office, we found that we were at a meeting and they said that there was a $5,000 grant that's available for you. Would you like us to pursue that for you? These would be the things we need. So if there would be someone that would be in a position that would come to us and say, we're going to take care of all of it for you. We're just going to need this information on a monthly basis.
but we're gonna be able to get you $5,000, by all means. And if that, I would have no problem putting in our budget for 26, some small line item to contribute to a bigger pot of saying, hey, we donate $1,000 to the administrative cost of a grant writer, because that might get us $5,000. That's a great return. That's a great investment. So overall, it's a fantastic idea. I don't think that we're gonna find a perfect fit for every department, but overall, I think it's a fantastic idea.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Gavin.
I would just like to point out, there's two reasons we send out that email, which, get ready, I'm getting ready to send out audit emails. But one is the audit, but two is the AFR, which is an annual financial report that's due by March 1st every year by the auditor's office. So there's two reasons for that, grant information that we collect at the end or beginning of the year.
Because currently it's a manual process. We have to go through and request all this information from the departments, gather it all up, count the number of grants, add up the totals of each grant, and then submit all that to the state. For this system, we just pull in our report and save a huge amount of time in our office so we can manage other issues and other grants. That's just one example of several that this tool would provide for us.
Anybody else want to speak on grant administrator position?
Chuck Zimmers, HTCU Director. I think there's a huge need for this. My grants, I really can't farm that out. I have to account to the people I have to account to for that. It's not people, I'm not reporting to the state, I'm not reporting to the feds, it's entities that I have to report to. But it sounds like there are people that have things that someone else could manage for them, but it's not necessarily a fiscal, it's data. It's from doing their work. And also there's money on the table. I mean, Emily can't maintain what she has, so she's not gonna go out and look for more. I mean, why would you look for more work when you can't handle the work you have? I think a grant administrator, since it's not necessarily even fiscally driven, the need is the research, the need is the reporting on the data of doing your job. I think that would be a great person to coordinate, maybe not do all the work, but send Holly, hey, it's time, within the next 30 days, could you generate this report for me, and get it to me? And I think there's money out there on the table, a grant writer / administrator could locate, could do research, come to a department head, hey, I found this grant, these are the reporting requirements, do you think we can handle that? Do you think your office can generate these reports and get them to me so I can help you do that? To me, that doesn't even necessarily sound like it falls on the auditor, since it's not a fiscal need. She's not reporting money. She's reporting on things that's going on in the justice system. So maybe it should even reside somewhere else. But that's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Chuck. Anybody else want to speak on it?
I want to make a quick comment, if that's okay. So I just want to clarify, the commissioners were agreeing to help pay for this for 2 years.
Correct.
So if hypothetically we were to agree to this today or next month, or whatever we decide to do, after 2 years, we'd have some good data to know if it was worth our money or not, if it was beneficial, if it's working, make some decisions at that time. Not necessarily opposed to it. I think there's a need. I want to make sure that we're not missing any. I mean, there is a lot of money on the table, and if we can find ways to get that back into our coffers, I think that's a good thing. Kind of where I stand right now.
We do have a motion on the table, and I have heard it floated out there that Councilman Flanagan would like to table it. If we don't have any motion to table, I'm going to ask for roll call, so I'm going to give the council a few moments.
I will make the motion. If it doesn't get seconded, I won't be mad. But I will make that motion because there is a lot of input here that we got recently.
The motion is to table this request.
Till next month.
Second. All right. Motion to table by Dan, seconded by Bill. Do we have any discussion on the table?
I guess if we're gonna do this, and if anyone else has any other thoughts or whatever, to make sure you get that back to the council before our next meeting, so we have more time to sit on it.
Yes, and I will add to that, when you are making comments, make sure you tell us whether you're in favor or against this position, because some of the comments that were made were a little arbitrary. All right, roll call on the table. Ms. Blanken?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Cantz? Mr. Mokel?
Yes.
Mr. Bookout?
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead? Yes. Ms. Piper?
Yes.
Thank you all, and I look forward to more discussion.
Thank you, council.
All right,
And
moving
I
on
do
to
want to
sheriff.
thank the auditor for all the information that we did receive today.
Absolutely.
And check your emails, because I think more was sent yesterday. All right, moving on to sheriff's request.
129 sheriff, 160-101 high-tech crime unit technician, positive $9,152.88. 183 longevity experience, 27,000. 310 professional services, 10,000 for a total of $46,152.88.
Move to approve?
Second?
Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Questions?
What do you? I understand the longevity.
Nancy Marvin, Sheriff's Office. Yeah, the 27,000 is just the remainder of the longevity that we didn't deal with at the January meeting, original January meeting. The $9,152.88 is the remainder of the grant salary that is given to us through the high-tech crime unit. Our person left that we were responsible for, so I need to give this money back to the grant for Chuck then to use later. This is cleaner than him just shortening up the 25,000 he would give us the first time by this 9,100. It's just cleaner when you do look at your audits. That's why we're doing it this way. And the $10,000 is actually money that has been seized by the drug task force, and it's ordered in court that they get this money. And at the end of, what's the right date here? At the end of December, they had $43,000 in excess in that account. So what we want to do is move 10,000 out of that, because that is what they will use then for their drug buy money. So it is their money. It sits in county general, but I have to have appropriated over so that we can spend it.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other questions?
On the technician, if you have to read the next item, the major transfer, we're gonna appropriate this, and then we're gonna transfer it
Back to Chuck.
high tech.
Yes.
No further questions? Roll call, please. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, major transfer.
129 sheriff, 160-101 high-tech crime unit technician, negative $9,152.88. 1195, 509, 311 contractual services, positive $9,152.88 total transfers here.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Jessica. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead. Yes. Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Continue on to the other high-tech crimes unit.
1195, 509 high-tech crime unit, 211 office supplies, $1,000. 220 operating supplies, $2,950. 323 transportation, $950. 360 repairs and maintenance service, $400. 362 repairs and maintenance software, $13,235.38. 392 education certification, $1,900. 393 conferences and training,
$4,900. 536 equipment, $15,950. 550 other capital outlays, $3,950. For a total of $45,235.38.
Move to approve?
Second. Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Doug, do you just want to explain it before we ask questions?
I will explain.
Thanks, sir.
The total amount that's being appropriated comes from two sources. One is the money we received from the state at the beginning, and the rest, I think 10,000 is rollover from 2024 that we didn't spend. Our funds are non-reverting, so I just have to bring them back in to spend. On the state, when I prepare the budget, when we have to have it in July, I don't know what I'm getting from the state. I mean, there's a set $300,000, but the state purchases for all 10 high-tech crimes units. Some of the software and hardware we use, they get a discounted rate by purchasing it for everyone. I didn't get a letter, I think, till mid-December, what that was going to be, the total that was going to come out for what I wanted. So when I prepare the budget for July, I just go as low as I can with paying things like salary, FICA, all that, the stuff that has to be paid. And then I just put that in as the budget. So I just lowball it. And then when the money actually comes in, after the tools are paid for, there was $335,235 was the remainder, and I'm just bringing that into budget lines so it can be spent.
Thank you. Any questions?
So that, I think as you explained that, you budgeted, I think, 202,500, and this is the excess. that you
Correct.
received,
Yes,
Plus the 10,000.
right. Because I don't know what the actual amount that shows up is going to be until the tools are deducted. Right. So, thank you. If I could submit my budget December, I would know, but that's not feasible.
I understand that. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Moving on, compliance plan fund.
1180, 239 comp plan fund, 310 professional services, 155,500, 323 transportation, 3,000, 331 printing, 1,500, 391 dues and subscription, 5,000, 393 conference and training, 5,000, 536 equipment, 5,000 for a total of 175,000.
Move to approve?
Second. Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Eileen, you want to explain this first?
Sure. Good morning, Kylie Swackhammer from Planning Commission. So this is our annual appropriation for our comp fund. We use this is a non-reverting fund. We use this fund to pay for any anticipated projects. We pay for consulting services out of this fund, any internships that we pay for, design manuals, other projects that we go into with other agencies. For instance, just some examples of those are our Transmap road inventories, our ADA transition plan updates, things like that. This fund is 80% reimbursable. So we did give you that little summary there of last year to show you in our different funds what did get reimbursed. Comp plan, we had, let's see, $75,413.36 reimbursed last year. And this amount, the $175,000, is just consistent with what we asked for last year.
Thank you. Any questions?
And 75,000 reimbursement is not 80% of 175.
Yeah, it was not, we did not spend. We did not spend.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
All righty. Moving on to the unsafe building fund.
1207, unsafe building fund, 211, office supplies, $500, 310, professional services, $74,500, for a total of $75,000. Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Can you explain this one too, please?
So this fund is what is used for, demolition of unsafe, buildings. Tom, our building commissioner, has to secure any unsafe structures, cleaning up of properties. This fund builds from 10% of our permit fees that we get to keep. For reference, last year we kept about $9,500, from our permit fees. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. This fund is non-reverting, but it builds slowly. This is consistent too with what we asked for last year, $75,000.
The question was asked in the audit, our finance committee, if there are funds, enough funds to cover this, and the answer was yes. Are there any other questions? All right, hearing none, roll call please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you. GIS map fund. Thank you, we gotta read it.
Sorry. Get ahead of myself. 1150, 254, GIS map fund, 310, professional services, 115,000, 323, transportation, 5,000, 331, printing, 5,000, 391, dues and subscriptions, 5,000, 393, conference and training, 5,000, 536, equipment, 15,000, for a total of 150,000. Motion approved.
Second. Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Now, Kylie, if you would please.
So we work with Kyle Johnson at EMA office with this account. It covers ArcGIS online storage, pictometry, new aerials, any beacon and transmap fees. This fund is also 80% reimbursable, and then we do have other agencies contribute to this fund because everyone that uses these tools as well, so.
Any questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you, Kylie.
Yep, thank you.
Moving on to project income.
1122, 240, project income, 117,101, case manager, $28.26, for a total of $28.26.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Jessica. Do we have any questions? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you, Jane. All right, moving on to opioid grant.
Me too.
8199, opioid grant, 101, peer recovery coach, 35,175, 171 FICA, 525, 231 incentives, 7,200, 400 Kia, 16,200, for a total of 59,100. Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Have any questions?
Could you explain the incentives?
Sure, Jane Miranda, Community Corrections. This particular grant is incentives for adult probation. They utilize the grant with buying gift cards for those probationers that have completed treatment, if they're incompliant with their appointments, court cost fines, I think bus passes. Emily might, that's not my department, so she might know more of what the incentives are.
I just spent this money. Emily Anderson, Court Administrator. They buy socks, shorts, sweats, sweatshirts,
bus passes, things that, probationers might need, that they have on hand for them to, have. It's not only for incentives, but it's also just needs, things that they might need, earbuds, things like that.
These are incentives for the clients, not for our employees.
Correct, for the clients, yes.
Think about the kiosk, please.
The kiosk is also probation. It's in the lobby of the Justice Center. These are the low-risk offenders that do not need to check in directly with the probation officer. So they check in the kiosk usually about once a month. And some people step down to that, some people just start on it. So, the kiosk is like in place of a probation officer. We have to rent that kiosk. It's a lease,
It's a lease.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other further questions? Hearing none, roll call. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
All right, moving on to sales disclosure fund. Thank you, Jane.
1131-218 Sales Disclosure Fund, 393 Conference and Training, 2,400, 362 Repairs and Maintenance Software, 950 for a total of 3,350.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Jessica. Questions?
Training? Yes, it is. James Carmichael County Assessor, the Sales Disclosure Fund. A certain amount of funds come out of every sales disclosure that transfers property that goes into this fund to pay for training and software and related.
Any further questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
An eligible standard. Thank you. Thank you, James.
1216, 694, ineligible standard. 311, contractual services, 7,000, for a total of 7,000.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Jessica. Questions?
What is,
Tanya Dunsmore, Chief Deputy Auditor. What this is a fund outside of County General. This is, generates revenue from the company, a third party that handles finding double homesteads. So, we sign a contract with them every so often. In fact, we just signed a new contract, so we're gonna be collecting probably a lot more in the year of 2025. But what this was from the old contract, and when they don't pay, then they get a, fine or the amount put onto their tax bill. So therefore, when the tax bill gets paid, eventually, this gets paid. So there was some lingers, I guess you would say, from the last time around, and it collected, $22,350.92 towards it. And out of that, we owe the company $7,000, and they invoiced me in, I think, recently.
And how often is this done?
As far as paying them,
No, how often does this company, how often do you contract with this service?
I think the last contract was signed by the previous auditor, I wanna say 2 to 3 years ago. I wanna say like 22. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's really up to us, and we could do it every year, but you'll find that, there's not, if you do it every year, it becomes a very labor-intensive process, so we do it typically over 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, plus you catch people that way.
Yeah.
If you did it every year, you'd kind of run out of people. So you generate more money if you wait a little bit.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Thank you.
All right, motion to approve financial transfers and to amend salary ordinance with like reductions.
Second.
Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. Roll call. Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Motion to receive the backfilling report.
Second. Motion by Bill, second by Dan. Any comments or questions on it? No, roll call. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Alrighty, moving on to ordinances. I have an ordinance to introduce for first reading.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2025-02 for its first reading.
Second.
Motion by Jessica, second by Dan. I'll have some conversation on this.
Just for clarification, this is an ordinance approving a pilot agreement with TWG Cowan LP in connection with development and construction of an affordable multifamily housing apartment complex in Delaware County, to be known as the Foundry Row Apartments, and I think their representative is here.
Yes, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Kelly, VP of Tax Credit Development with TWG Development. So I know you guys have had this discussion before. This is the first reading, but happy to kind of answer any questions that didn't come up previously.
I do have a question. On the stat that you are using for the median gross income, where are you pulling that specific statistic from?
That comes from the HUD website directly, and those get published annually.
A question related to the, and Ryan, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but will the funds that are received via the pilot, will they go into the TIF district or will they go into the general fund?
I don't know that answer. I think within that statute, there is some requirements on where that goes, but I know the attorneys reviewed that, but from your guys' perspective, I don't know what fund that goes into, so I can't answer that.
And we're still having the county attorney review this as well. And have you heard of any response yet?
No, the county's office is still reviewing it. To answer the question on the taxes, not the taxes, but the payments in lieu of taxes pursuant to statute are distributed among the county and its revenue districts as though they were taxes. So however this district or this area would have been taxed is how these payments will be spent or distributed.
So you don't know if this is in a TIF?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm assuming with it being an industrial area, it probably would be.
I think that's an important question, if we could find that out before next month.
Yeah, agreed.
I'd wanna know that.
For the next month, if council has more questions, I'm sure Ryan would be available to answer as many as he can.
Yes.
Appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions currently? Let's do roll call. Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Alrighty, I don't think we have any appointments. Do we have any committee reports? Mr. Hughes, do you want to bring up the council rules?
I can.
If you won't, I will.
They haven't been distributed, I don't think.
You did send out the email with the,
I sent it to you.
oh, that was to me only. Fair enough. All right, so council, expect to see updates to our council rules. And it'll be 30 days after that before we can act on them, so it'll be at our March meeting unless we have a special meeting between the February and March meetings.
I'll send those out this afternoon.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Bill. I don't believe we have any old business, new businesses, the encumbrances. You should have a large list in front of you. While you're perusing those, I do want to make a comment before we make a motion to approve those, or whatever your desire is. Myself and Mr. Cantz looked over the encumbrances, which is basically just a large stack of paper forms. And we were, I'm going to speak for Mr. Cantz. I was disappointed because not all the encumbrances were timely. Some of them were 6 months old. And not all of them had descriptions on them.
And I do believe going forward that that needs to be a requirement, and whatever it takes from council to make that a requirement, I'd like to see happen. Because simply just writing encumbrance on there, even if it does have an invoice attached, is not fulfilling the paperwork that is needed, in my opinion. Now, does council have a preference on the encumbrances before them?
I move to approve the encumbrances as presented.
Second?
We have a motion by Bill and a second by Jessica. I know you haven't had a chance to look through every single one of them. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of them that are in front of you?
I agree with your comment. We need as much detail as possible, and they need to be timely as well.
You might just, for the public, explain the conferences of money that was spent and then go back to the general fund.
I think there's two parts to that, Dan.
Yeah.
We'll start with the easy one first. If it wasn't spent out of your budget, yes, if it come from general, it's gonna go back into general. Now, the encumbrances, the way I understand it is, if you weren't able to turn in your claim and get it paid before the end of the year, you file an encumbrance to make sure that it comes out of the 24 budget and is used appropriately. And we're now approving that time frame, that gap in time, I guess. And this will also, once this is completed, help answer Mr. Hughes' question from the last couple of meetings of our final balances to get those updated. Which I have asked the auditor's office, and I asked him if he could get it to us by the 1st of the month. And I was told that could be possible to get updated balances to us. So expect those to come shortly. Any other comments or questions on the encumbrances?
I think to your point about being a little disappointed, I think that's why we try to get that encumbrance ordinance through last year to try to smooth some of that out and get some better clarification, but I think we can all work together to make sure that all that information is being provided to us so we know what we're working with here.
And so that the auditor can
Do their job.
do their job in a timely way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could revisit that ordinance and get more input and perhaps, smooth out the process.
Alright. Roll call. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel. Mr. Buckout.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Piper.
Yes.
Elected officials and department heads.
Hi, Justin Curley, Purdue Extension. I'm here today to deliver our annual impact report. Some of you guys are very familiar with extensions, some of you not so much. So I felt like this might be a helpful document to help you understand the work that we do throughout the county and throughout the state. And in the cover, I put an invitation. February 20th, we will be having our annual meeting at the Academy for Model Aeronautics, and you are all welcome to come. We do ask that you RSVP because it will be catered. There's a copy there for everybody, and hope they have answer any questions.
Thank you, Justin, and you beat me to it. I was going to mention that
Appreciate it.
meeting as well. Any questions for Justin?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Gavin Green, Delaware County Coroner. Just wanted to come to the meeting today to give the update for our January statistics. We had a total of 46 calls as of last night, and we had a total of 8 autopsies with an average of about $1,500 per autopsy. I wanted to do something for the council starting this year of giving you kind of a financial tracking report and a variance report for you to see what our budget is and what we've spent, so that we don't get to an encumbrance area or we find that there's an error in August, September, October, November, and then you're having to fix something for the auditor's office. But because of the encumbrances, the auditor's office was not able to get us a variance report within VIP because the old numbers were still there because they're still tying those in. So the new numbers are not in there yet. So that is why I don't have a kind of a financial report for you guys, but I am going to hopefully in February, you'll be able to see our 2025 budget and what we've actually spent. I know that you already have the financial reports, but at least it's in front of you so we can catch something if it needs to be fixed ahead of time instead of at budget time. Any questions?
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Gary. All right, thank you.
Tony Skinner, Delaware County Sheriff. I also want to give my annual January update for things going on at the Sheriff's Office. Everybody should have a small packet. We'll go through the one with the paperclip first. First page is meal costs for 2024. It's really broken down well. It should be pretty self-explanatory. Average meal cost for last year was $1.75. We served 469,000 meals in the jail last year. That number is significantly higher than the previous several years, probably the highest that our jail's ever done, but be happy to answer any questions about that. And we'll talk about meals again here in a moment, but we'll go this first. Second page, this is the annual Ron Quakenbush Sheriff's Pension Update Report. Started the year 2024 with $20,420,000 and some change. Ended the year with $22,938,000. Our pension fund, we made 10% in the stock market last year, and then you see what the county's contribution was, what the county council's contribution was, what our 3% from our deputies, and then other fees that we did. And the pension fund distributed $1.458 million last year. And then it has the column where the companies or the entities that we use, Comerica Bank, McCready and Keene, the actuaries, and then Baird, they're the ones that do our investment, what their fees are. And then a little historical thing at the bottom that shows where their starting balances were at the beginning of the year for the past 5 years.
Do they provide you the benchmark on their, to compare their investment results against? 10% seems a little low for 2024.
It might seem low if you compare that against your personal finances, but remember this is a pension fund and they're not really super aggressive with it to ward off losses.
That's why I was thinking that they should have a benchmark of some kind that so they can track their investment results. I didn't know if they provided that to you, or if that's something we could ask them to.
We can talk about that afterwards. I know that our benchmark is 6.5%. That's what we have to hit every year to hit our mark. And I don't know if that's what you're asking for, if it's something compared to other counties or what?
Compared to, S&P 500 or Russell 2000 or some other.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, we can explore
I believe
that.
we have that report in our office, so if you want to stop in and see if it's will answer your questions.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
Next page, out of county billing.
If I could back up just for a second, please.
Sure.
Is there a number that I'm not aware of where our contribution could possibly go down in as far as the pension is concerned? When you have 22,000 in it now, is there a magical number that once we hit 25 million, our contribution?
Yeah, there is. Actually, Matt Kantz texted me a couple of days ago asking me what that number was to get us to fully funded. I think right now we're about 76
funded, what they call funded. Very few counties in the state are fully funded, but some are. It would take us $7 or $8 million to get us to 100% to fully funded. And then once you do that, our contribution would decrease significantly. But, you know, we went,
Well, you're contributing an additional $7 million, that's one number, but then you're additionally pulling about $1.5 million a year out, so.
yeah, but if we were fully funded, even though we would continue to pull 1.5 million out, the county's contribution would only be $500,000 or $600,000.
The sheriff is correct. I've talked to the company about this, and it is about $7.5 million. And it would reduce it by 2/3. So it would go from a 1.4 down to roughly $400,000 to $500,000.
Sheriff, I think you were beginning to allude to how we got to this situation.
Yeah, I was, and it was back in the early 2000s. We had a period of time where the pension fund was doing really well through the 90s, and the bank that held our pension fund at the time suggested that the deputies stop paying their 3% because the fund had so much money in it compared to how much it was spending. Council found out about that, so they stopped doing their contributions. So we went a period of time for nearly 8 years, where in an 8-year span, 2 of those 8 years, the county didn't contribute any money to the fund, and then 5 of those 8 years, the county only contributed like $35,000. So it was a real bad time for the fund because it wasn't getting money put into it. I mean, think about it for your personal finances. If you go 8 years and don't put hardly anything in, you can't expect any growth, and you got to pay for that on the back end. And that's what we've been doing here for the past several years, is paying for the sins of our forefathers 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or whatever. So that's how we got in this position to where we're underfunded. It's none of y'all's fault. It's not my fault, but we're doing it. That's what happens when you kick the can down the road. So I'm very grateful for the contributions that the council has made for the past 3 or 4 years, because it has been at least the minimum or the medium number. So, you know, we're doing much better now than we were several years ago, but we're still underfunded because of what happened 15, 20 years ago. It's not our fault. We're just dealing with the repercussions.
Sheriff, you get quotes on the fees from Baird. Is that competitive bids or do the work of what Baird's doing?
I do. You know, Baird won't share with us the returns of other counties, and other counties don't typically share this. You know, how much they spend. I can send an email to other sheriffs and see if they'll provide this information. But I think that our fees are, I think Bill last year did the math, it's 0.5% or something, or 0.75%. And I think those fees are very good, very competitive.
$121,141.
Right. Any other questions on the pension fund? Okay. Out of county billing, Madison County, Marion County are the only 2 counties that we continue to hold county inmates from. The DOC money are inmates that have been sentenced to prison, but we're still holding, waiting to send those off. Parole, those are people that have been picked up, who've been let out of prison on parole and then picked up for a new violation or some sort of parole violation. So we're holding those folks, waiting to send them back to prison. Both of those 2 numbers, the per diem for us is $37.50 a day per inmate. Hopefully this year the legislature increases that number. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. And then obviously the federal inmates, last year we made $950,000 on the federals alone. The total for all of those was just shy of $1.5 million.
And then you can see the previous years there at the bottom. And then the running total since we've been housing inmates is just over $3.5 million in 4 years. So I'm pretty proud of that number.
What's our per diem that we charge Madison and area?
$40.
40, and that is 70, federal rate,
60.
60.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And once this contract or this agreement with the feds expires in another 2.5 years, I expect that number to increase significantly. But that'll be something that my successor gets to brag about. We are probably one of the lowest in the state for the federal rate, but you know, we had to take that number to get our foot in the door. So when this contract expires, then in a couple of years, expect that number to go up drastically.
Did they provide you with a performance review of any kind, feedback?
They don't. They're very happy with our performance. That's why the number's always hovering around 50. Our agreement was for a maximum of 50 inmates from the feds. So this morning we're holding 47. The verbal feedback that we've got is they're very happy with us. Yeah. The next page is the 2024 inmates report. Shows the average number of inmates that we had per day. It goes by month. The columns I want to pay specific attention to are that PTP and the PTHD. So the PTP is pre-trial probation, and the next one is pre-trial home detention. The commissioners pay for these programs, and I can't tell you enough how well they're working and how good of a job our probation department and our community corrections department are doing. These two numbers, if we didn't have these programs, these people would be in our jail. And we wouldn't have room to house out of county and federal inmates. So I'm stressing the importance of this pretrial probation and pretrial home detention number. And I know Commissioner Brand's in here, but how important it is that those programs continue to be funded. And then the rest of it speaks for itself.
Who monitors the probation implementation?
Those departments are our probation department and home community corrections. Next page is just simply for information only. Total number of training hours that our department does. Our merit deputies trained 11,500 hours last year. That averages to 250 hours per deputy. Our instructors taught 2,251 hours. We have 19 instructors, so that breaks down to a little over 118 hours per instructor. So training is very important to us, and that sheet shows it.
Building in the jail, are you at capacity?
No, we still have 2 openings on the merit side, and I do believe the jail is fully staffed. Thanks for bringing that up. Actually, for the first time in 2, all right, well, there for a minute we were fully staffed, and we actually had a hiring list, which is, we haven't had that for a long time, so.
What do you attribute that to?
Pardon?
What do you attribute that to?
Honestly, I think pay raises. Yeah, I really do. Yeah. The next bundle is the annual commissary report. I don't know that there'll be any questions here until you get a chance to go through it and digest it. So, if you do, feel free to reach out to myself or honestly probably Nancy. She can answer them a lot better than I can. And I have 2 more things I want to talk about real quickly before I leave the podium. things that I'm going to be bringing to you next month. One of them is your salary ordinance. I'd like to increase the part-time pay in the jail. We have part-timers working in the jail on all 3 shifts.
and it's been wonderful for those guys. It helps the COs, you know, get the time off that they request, having the part-timers. Right now, it's at, I think it's at $15. Yeah, it's at $15. We'd like to raise that to 17, and we think we can do that without a financial burden to you or coming to you and asking for more money. So I'll be bringing that to you next month. And then lastly, I started off this presentation talking about meal costs, and I want to let you know that we are in talks with a company to take over food service in the jail. This is something that I entertained, and I interviewed 3 companies my first year in office back in 2019, and it just didn't work out for one reason or another. But I've interviewed a couple more companies last year, and there's one company called Victus Food Service that can come in, do our employees right, our kitchen staff, and actually they've offered us a 3-year deal with a fixed meal cost of where we're at right now for $1.67 per meal. You can see last year we spent $1.75 per meal. The year before that we spent $1.72 a meal, and I'm sure that you guys probably understand that food costs probably aren't going down anytime. So if we can lock into a 3-year deal at $1.67, I think that would be a great benefit for the county. So I want to just letting you know right now that we're in the talks of that. There's a lot of unanswered questions about how that would, you know, how that goes down. I know I've got to spend some time probably with Tanya or somebody in the auditor's office. They would hire our kitchen staff. So they would no longer be county employees. They would work for this vendor. We would have to transfer all of the money that's been budgeted for meals this year into a new line, probably contractual services or something, so we could pay them. So for me right now doing this, there's a lot of unanswered questions. But in the long run, I believe it would be good for us to take that responsibility off of the sheriff's office. It wouldn't take the responsibility off totally, but having a vendor there would take some heat off of us. I think it would be good for the county also, even though we would be losing those 4 county employees. I think it might be a beneficiary. It would be beneficial financially. So I'm working on that now. I'll have more to present on that next month. So if you got any questions about that in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me.
Sheriff, Matt and I met with the sheriff and with the Stanley back in December to kind of get our first look at his plan or whatever. One of the other things was more food variation, right? Like the meal variation would improve for the inmates as well. So.
Yeah, it would. I think I remember them saying they do 27 or 2,800 calories a day, which far exceeds the requirement. They have a 4-week rotating menu with different meals than we serve now. What I've heard so far, I really like about it. I've got another conference call with them tomorrow, so things are progressing nicely. But I'll keep you in the loop about what that looks like. Anybody?
Look forward to more information on that. I do have a question for you on the transport van that we moved around a couple of months ago. How is that working?
It's been wonderful because one of our other transport vans was in the shop for a bad transmission the other day. So it's been wonderful. Honestly, it's really saved our bacon tremendously. So yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. Any other elected officials or department heads? Tommy, while you're up, could you go out there and see if anybody signed up for public comment, please?
I've got a comment.
Oh, Ed?
This is a reference to an email that's floating around amongst some of the elected officials, the treasurer, Commissioner Brand, a few of the council members. It's a reference to really doing some financial strategic planning for the future. And essentially what I'm suggesting is for us to create a committee so we can start planning ahead. Essentially, the financial plans we've had in the past have been used reactionary to whenever we need to borrow money. And it's really to support the fact that we need money to pay this debt. And what I'm suggesting is to put a committee together to plan ahead and use that plan to execute whatever projects or debt we decide that we want to incur. And this committee, my suggestion is have this committee set up with the auditor, the treasurer, the finance committee from the council, so it'd be 3 members. 1 member from the commissioners, which would be an appointment from the commissioners. Again, this is strictly a suggestion at this point, and I would suggest that maybe the council puts that in a resolution for that committee to be created. And we could meet on a regular basis to make sure we execute the plan where that plan may be.
Great idea.
Would this kind of, allude to Matt Kant's wish list planning in advance? I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, to bring those kind of things into play.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Make a motion, we request legal counsel to draft a resolution. Second.
All right. Motion by Brad, second by Dan. Is that enough clarification for you? I can give them one. I can reach 6. Any other comments or questions? All right, roll call. Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Bookout.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes.
That all that, or that's everything I've got, unless anyone has any questions concerning that topic.
Nobody signed up.
Nobody signed up. Jessica, by any chance, are you on
I
the?
am, and I don't see any questions on the Facebook stream. Let me refresh my email. Don't see a question.
All right, any comments from council?
I'd like to thank the, street department and county road department for all the work they've done in the snow. I've heard lots of good comments. And once again, they make us all us elected officials look good.
Any others?
I'd comment, we spend a lot of time talking about grants, and now council is rightly so going to take a look at, some financial planning, including enhancing our investment revenue. These become very important items because of a couple of things that are going on. One, the city of Muncie is, embarked on a program of annexation. When an area is annexed, the county still receives a portion of the property taxes, but that portion is reduced because the city now has a share of the tax revenue. So it does impact the county. The other thing, Councilman Whitehead and Councilman Hanson and I were at the Chamber Legislative luncheon last Friday. Our General Assembly is in the mood to cut property taxes, as is the governor apparently. And the sense I got from that meeting was that if that happens, it's just going to be up to the county to figure out how to get along. I'm not sure that there's going to be any compensating revenue provided. So those are concerns and the reason that we need to be vigilant in looking for outside income.
I'll piggyback on the concerns with the property tax, potential changes. We all have the opportunity to be council members on the private county AIC council page, and there were some links shared that showed what those financial losses what they may look like depending on what happens for all of the counties. So you might want to hop out there and take a look. If you're not on socials much, I think probably on the AIC website you probably can locate them when you log in there as well. So you might want to take a look. It was staggering.
Any other comments?
I have, one, when I was on the council, starting in 2004, on a monthly basis, there was the appointments, or at least a couple of the appointments of this body would come and give a report. This body would be willing, I I would appreciate hearing some update from those that we've put boards. I don't know what you all's thoughts are, but I think it's a good idea to know what they're doing, make sure they're engaged, those types of things.
Love that.
It's a good idea. I'll work with you and we'll reach out to boards and request them to come and give us updates. I'd like to make a few comments. I'd also like to piggyback on what Dan said. Thank you to the Highway Department for their hard work during the weather events that we've had. I'd like to thank the commissioners for starting the process of working on the audio in this room here. I don't know if everybody's received them, but I'd like to thank the auditor's office for the final budget books that I've received, and hopefully everybody gets here shortly. Let's see, I'd like to thank Councilman Hughes for working on amending the rules that everybody will see here shortly. And then hopefully we can work together here and get that committee going that we passed and get the meeting. Everybody enjoy the warm weather we're now expected to have. I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Jessica, roll call. Flanagan.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Stokel.
Yes.
Buckout.
Yes.
Wyatt. Yes. Vance. Piper.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.